I wanted to make a quick video. I don't know how long this is going to be, very much off the cuff, talking about fighting the insurance system. And there's a whole, there's a whole world within a world when it comes to fighting insurance. I do work in the medical industry. I went to college for my degree, for my license, for my medical healthcare license. I do have to maintain continuing education for my medical healthcare license. I do have to go to the state every year for my, reapply for my, with the state every year for my license. So I just want you to know what level I am at, right? Like, yes, I do have a college educated professional healthcare working job that I worked very hard for. And there used to be a rumor people in healthcare had good insurance. I don't know. Maybe if you're independently wealthy, you have good insurance now. But I think for the most part, Americans are getting pretty screwed by insurance. My child has a condition in which, and this is no fault of her own, no fault of mine, her genetics just code for a little bit different, makes just a few things with her just a little bit different, a little bit off. If you were to see her, unless we were to tell you, you probably would not know. Or you wouldn't know. With that said, she does need some very expensive drugs because currently she's in pain every day. She has 2 ulcers on her feet and they are open wounds. Completely unable to live a normal life right now. She's a teenager. She would like to take dance class. She has expressed interest. She can't even take a walk right now. Right? Like constant pain. She's constantly in pain. Every day she tells me, "Mom, I'm in pain. Mom, I'm in pain. Mom, I'm in pain." Every day. Her doctor recommended a certain drug. It is a low-level chemo drug. My child does not have cancer. However, this low-level chemo drug does work on the same genetic coding that the issue that my daughter has works on. And so we were asking the insurance company, Blue Cross Blue Shield, but we were asking them to use this, I guess, for what you would call off-label. And I'm saying this because I want other people to know who have been denied. I want you to know, I guess, to understand a little bit about the process you can take. I also just want to know, from my own personal experience, I want people to know that, one, it's not your fault, and you're going to have a whole bunch of different emotions. Maybe there's extra emotions because this is my kid, and you get those mama bear emotions involved. But, yeah, so there's a lot of, let me just say, whatever emotions you have, you're going to have all those deep, dark thoughts because the insurance company denied you and it's not your fault. It is the insurance company's fault. The insurance company. And I will say this, I have contacted I live in Western Washington. I contacted every one of my elected political officials. Every one of my elected political officials. Every one of my elected political officials here in Western Washington are Democrats. Not a single one of them cared. Not a single one of them could bother to step up to the plate for my child. Every one of them said, "You know what, it's legal. We really don't care. We can't do nothing for you." Everyone. So I know people love to do Democrat versus Republican, how much better one is than the other. They're both the same. Neither care. I will never vote for any one of my current political politicians that are in office ever again. And 2 of those have been senators, Senator Maria Cantwell, Senator Maria Patty Murray, calling you both out. I contacted both of their offices multiple times. Neither one could care to do nothing. They've both been in office for a long time. They are both very high position, high power senators. Neither one of them cared. So just so you know, if you want to contact your elected officials, please do, because I still think it's worth it that our elected officials know what we, the Americans, think. You know, I'd like to think maybe someday they'll listen to American workers. I don't think so anymore, but we can at least tell them why we're voting them out of their job, right? You know, we can at least tell them what we want. You get nothing that you don't ask for, you know. And with politicians, in the working class, you're still going to get nothing you ask for, but you know, we can at least ask. So I do want to say this: do write the appeal letter, or excuse me, do make that appeal. Now, with our first appeal, I let the doctor take care of that. And the doctor told me, and they sent me the packet actually. They sent in daily notes. And for those who don't know, daily notes are just what every time you go to the doctors, every time you go to the dentist, every time you go any, you know, if you go see an occupational therapist, whoever, if you go to any sort of medical official and insurance is paying for it, there is a daily note written about the visit, what they did, and then they bill that off to insurance. And you know, they keep, it's a way to keep track. It's a way also to bill insurance, but it's also a way for medical professionals, or you know, those within the same system, to be able to communicate back and forth. If you see a couple different doctors, if you see a couple different therapists, if you see a couple different nurses, whoever, everybody can look at your chart and be like, okay, this is what's going on with this patient, right? So it helps you, so everybody knows, and it's a way to bill insurance. Now, my child's doctor, yes, did send this information off, and for the appeal, the first appeal, Blue Cross Blue Shield magically lost it. I personally don't believe him. You know, I mean, I ain't gonna believe the insurance company. So there's that. I'll also say this with that first appeal. This is after they already denied us the first time, and they came to the second time. So with the second appeal, or excuse me, the first appeal, they tried to call my child's doctor once, and they tried to call me once. They did not bother to leave a voicemail of any sorts. And, you know, it's one of those, if you try to call, like, you know, I myself was probably with the patient, and I do not bring my phone in to when I'm with patients. I work very hard at my job. I don't have the time, though, to be on the phone at my job. I just don't. That is not, my job demands that I work very hard. I look at my phone when I'm on breaks, you know, like everybody else on lunch break, but I'm not looking at it while I'm with the patient. So they didn't have, you know, they didn't even bother to really try. They just did it so they could check the box. They did the bare minimum, which is what the insurance company is used to getting away with. So they, you know, and they also did the same with the doctor. More than likely the doctor, maybe she was working that day, maybe she wasn't, maybe she was with the patient at that time, maybe she wasn't. But you know, they did the bare minimum, which is, I think, what we can all expect from insurance companies these days. So with that appeal, that first appeal that we sent in, they denied it. And then we were told we could do what's called an external federal review. And here's what I want people to know. For the appeal process, even for, you know, this is what I wish I would have known for that first appeal process. I wish I would have been involved with that first appeal process, maybe even have been involved with the initial, well, probably not with the initial ask, but with that first appeal process. I want you, well, if it's for you, write a letter about your life. If it's for your child or your loved one, write a letter about what their life is like. Okay? For my child, I had to put in the letter, look, my kid can't play sports. My kid would love to play sports. My kid can't. My kid has to every day wear 2 compression socks and still complains of pain every single day. I had to put in the letter, my child has 2 oozing, gaping, open hole ulcer wounds. You know, right? Now, if either of those were to get infected, my child could be in real danger, right? I also had to put in the letter that if this issue of my child is not taken care of, it will shorten her life. Or what if we have to amputate her foot? That's going to also cost more down the line, right? All these things I had to put in the letter. You know, I just basically said, look, you know, I also put down the other diagnoses that my child has. I got my child's primary care doctor to write a letter. And you can go on, I was going to say, there are computer systems you can use that'll kind of half write the letter. Like maybe, if you want, like an AI or a ChatGPT to write a chunk of the letter for you, but then you go through and edit. I would, you can do that. I didn't do that. I went ahead and wrote. I've just always enjoyed doing stuff like that. Always been able to, with something I could do, right. But I know some people like to write, some people don't, right. So you do what works best for you when it comes to that. I insisted that we send everything in paper for this federal external review because they have to review every piece of paper. If you send a link, they may or may not click on the link, but they have to look over every single piece of paper. I insisted that we get a whole bunch of medical records from the hospital. I was like, let's put lots and lots and lots of daily notes. Let's put not only notes from this, but let's also put notes in from my child had a few other procedures that had to deal with the same issues. But we had tried another form to help my child. It in the short term helped for a little while, but then I went back. It was not a long-term final solution. And I was like, let's get those in the notes, or with the external packet that we sent. I just made sure I had the nurse, my child's nurse at her school, write a letter about, and they wrote down what accommodations they have to make for my child at school. I think that's everything I got in the letter. But essentially, what I was told was, if you send a piece of paper for this external review, they have to look at it. So please, 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 one, don't just accept what the insurance company says the first time. They're banking that you're going to accept their initial decision and then walk away. Don't do that. Let's make these ballers pay, okay? We as workers deserve this. We all pay into this system to help people that need help, right? My child has done nothing. This is, and that's a whole other debate. If people want to debate other things for people who, right, whatever. But my child has done nothing. My child was just born with genetics that codes a little bit different for a few different things. But also could really threaten her life. And she needs this medication, and she has something that's very rare. So it's, we just don't have all the studies done on it. We don't have the medication specifically for this, but they are looking at, there are scientific results. Oh, that's another thing. Sorry. I asked for her doctor to find some of the papers, and I found some scientific papers where I sent in as well with this packet about what this medication does for children with this, or for people with this issue. So write the letter advocating for yourself or your child or loved one. Other doctors, other nurses you've worked with, have them write a letter for you advocating. The specific doctor you're working with on whatever issue, have them write the letter advocating. Everything you can to advocate. In my opinion, if you send in a packet this big of external review, they have to go through every single piece of paper, right? And the more evidence you can send in, hopefully the more likely they are to approve what you say. I can tell you this, you are gonna spend hours on the phone with the insurance company, frustrated AF. They're banking on that. They don't care. The first line you always get is, those basic phone representatives who don't really know anything. It's not their fault. They're not the ones making the decisions, but you have to talk to them to get anywhere. And then you still don't get to talk to the people making the big decisions. But you're going to spend hours on the phone, frustrated. And I understand that, and I understand you, and I know how hard that is firsthand. I really, really, really do. I cannot tell you, as soon as they said, or as soon as the person, and I had to spend an hour 45 this morning, I was like, did you receive this packet? I want to make sure you received everything in the packet. That's all I wanted to know, was if Blue Cross Blue Shield received the packet and received everything in the packet. The wave of relief, and how I just, it just touches your heart when you hear, oh, this medication you've been fighting for your kid to get, been fighting against a system, and it's very expensive medication. This is not the level of medication that a single mom, even though I work in the healthcare industry, is going to be able to afford. Yeah. So anyway, my kid, it's wrong that the system is set up like this. It's so wrong. So wrong in so many ways. There's a reason people are going up to Canada to buy their drugs now. And then when I found out what my copay on the price of this drug is going to be, I'm like, can I go up to Canada and get this? Honestly, my copay, even after having to fight the insurance company, is going to be out of control. So I'm going to figure that one out next. But don't give up. Please fight the insurance company. They're banking on you not fighting. Please speak up. I've started speaking up against this, and I just tell people now, and I'm not a mean, angry person. I'm in many ways always been a pretty happy, joyful person, but I'm also cynical against the system. I'm very Gen X in that way. Very cynical against the system, and this made me even more cynical against the system, and unfortunately it made my child also cynical against the system. She now knows firsthand politicians would not step up to the plate for her. Even Western Washington Democrats would not step up to the plate, who are very safe. Democrats in Western Washington, pretty safe, right? We live in a Western Washington's pretty liberal place. We vote Democrat by far. So they have safe seats. They have safe jobs. Not a single one of them could step up to the plate for my child. My child knows this. She ain't never going to vote Republican either, more than likely, as nor am I. But we also now both see the reality that, Democrats aren't really going to care either. It's just one more tick in that, and even though, yes, I'm college educated, I'm working class, the system is set up against us. Okay. I don't know what else to say. I have other things I was meant to do today. I was going to take my dog on a walk, but like I said, then it started raining here in Western Washington. I was on the phone way too long. I did feel a wave of relief though. Once I knew that, yes, this very expensive medication is going to be approved for my child. Hopefully maybe my child will start, we can start to see that glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe my child will, in a few months, start to have a little bit less pain. Maybe in 6 months, my child, maybe in, 4, 5, 6 months, my child will be able to take a walk with her dog again. Maybe she'll be able to think about taking dance class at some point. Maybe she'll be able to, think about riding her skateboard. All those things that as parents, we want our kid to have the opportunity to do. But unfortunately, my child just, and it is what it is. But Blue Cross Blue Shield definitely put a dent in trying to allow my child not to have a good quality of life, and I had to fight them. And I wanted to make this video because I want people to know, please fight the insurance system. And I may make a few more videos and maybe they'll be better. I'll write out an outline or something. They'll be better organized. I know you kind of had to just sit and listen to me talk, but there is some information and some action within this video. All right. With that said, I was hoping you could all see the fish tank here. So here's my little betta girl. Let's see if we can see her. Hi, little girl. She's a real spicy, fun little betta. I have a little beautiful betta boy down there. He's super chill. I don't know if you guys can see him or not. Maybe next time I make a video. I got him a new tank, so he's gonna get moved to upgraded, bigger tank pretty soon. I have quite a few plants in the tank, in case you can't see. Anyway, so thank you. And good luck. Please fight the insurance company. Please, please, please.